I welcome you all to Rainbow Secure Cyber Symposium 2021. I welcome our guest, Tripti Dhar from Veena Legal LLP. Tripti is a certified ISO consultant, ISO 27001 lead auditor, as issued by the British Standards Institute, and an IAPP certified privacy professional holding CIPP, CIPM, and automation privacy. Currently, she heads a practice of a firm for India, Europe, North America, and the Middle East. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much. Uh, Hello, everyone. First of all, thank you so much to Nehal, Dhaval, and Shashi for inviting me here and for this introduction. And thank you, everyone who has joined at this time to hear me out and hear the other speakers. So basically, I will start off with the sort of an introduction of myself. Although already Shashi has covered my bio, I'll just give you a background about my organization, the law firm I work for. So we are based out of Delhi NCR, and we also have an office in Mumbai. We also have strategic partnerships all across the globe, especially in Middle East, North America, and even Asia Pacific countries like Singapore, etc. So since my topic is very interesting, I would like to in a very subtle manner, sort of bridge my work experience with the topic. So my topic for today is my startup experience, innovation, security, and data privacy. And basically, data privacy and data protection is what we do at our firm. And this firm it was an already pre-existing firm when I started the data privacy department in this firm. We were taking up a lot of tax cases, so it was basically a taxation law firm. But having worked in companies, in my experience, in MNCs, I was working in a Swiss MNC, I was working in a big telecom company in India. I somewhere down the line realized that there's a lot of personal data being generated by Indians, or personal data being generated by people outside of India but being dumped in India due to the lack of data protection mechanism. And hence, there's a lot of need of protection of personal data, and not only protection but also managing it well in such a manner that neither does the business get harmed nor does the individual get harmed. So I went up to my managing partner and I told him, would it be a good idea for him to branch out his law firm so that we can start our data privacy practice? And he was very happy, he was all up for it. So in the past 2 years of setting up this practice, we have expanded exponentially. We have expanded in the way that we not only do data privacy, data protection work like adhering with the GDPR, which is of European Union, or with California Consumer Protection Act, which is of California, but with other upcoming acts also. Like for instance, in North America, many states are now coming up with new legislations, be it Boston, be it Nevada, be it Colorado, or even New York is working on a data protection state-specific legislation. Similarly, there are also some sector-specific legislations in North America, like the HIPAA pertaining to healthcare, and even GLBA pertaining to finance, etc. We hear that even Canada now is sort of going to overhaul its data protection and privacy regime. So in the past, we have had companies that are headquartered in California or headquartered in Netherlands who have come to us to help them align their systems with data protection and privacy legislations that are applicable to them. Now, you may ask me, how is it that while we're sitting in India, based out of Mumbai, how am I able to work on such international projects? Now, this is the kind of startup experience that I want to share with you, wherein our innovation is also included, wherein there's so many challenges regarding to security and data privacy that we faced. Now, many of you must already be aware that be it ISO 27001 or be it GDPR, CCPA, they are truly global in nature and they touch our lives. So, even if we are talking about us being consumers or us being clients, we know that our personal data is with Facebook, is with Apple, is with Googles of the world. Separately, we're also working in companies or working for companies wherein a lot of personal data is generated, and the personal data is also moving across borders. So for instance, I will tell you many companies who come up to us who are based in either Europe or North America or Asia Pacific, the feature that we see very prevalent is that a lot of their back-end work is being done in India. So for instance, for their payroll accounting work, for their HR work, for the insurance work, they send back a lot of data to India. And in addition to that, we have also seen that a lot of promoters, a lot of Indian promoted companies wherein Indians have done so well, they have gone ahead and they have established companies in, again, all these countries of the world, but they also have a branch office in India. So what they feel is that, someone who is already sitting in India will be able to give them a lot more time, a lot more, in-depth analysis of what is happening across the globe, because India has, whether we like to believe it or not, but it has become a dumping ground of personal data. Although at this juncture, I must also tell you that we are getting India's personal data legislation as well. It is right now being debated, in the parliament, and we will very soon have a data. We'll soon have a data law. So coming back to how was my startup experience. Now, we were in a very precarious situation. We were a new company, and we were from the very beginning very keen on the fact that we will have to build awareness as well. There are companies who know that perhaps they are amenable to GDPR, or they will attract CCPA, or they will attract any other personal data law, but most of the times they are not aware of what will be the repercussions of not complying with it. So, we started by having, various webinars, free of cost webinars, of course. We also started by having a lot of, awareness building workshops in India and in abroad countries like Dubai, etc., where all we could go. This is just before the pandemic, because as you know, pandemic hit in 2020. But in the limited time we have, we also visited countries. I also personally went to European Union. I went to Brussels. I went to Amsterdam. I went to Luxembourg. Therein also, I exchange a lot of information from people. I learned on the job how does GDPR really work. What are the European Union companies thinking of, what are the European Union authorities thinking of. At the same time, we also got in touch with a lot of American companies, so as to understand what does data privacy mean in all these different continents of the world. On basis of that, we came up with a very unique offering, to be very honest, a very unique offering for all these companies who are based across different countries, or companies who just don't want custom made services. Now, I feel where our firm, at the end of the day, distinguished, if I talk about my startup experience, my firm was very different from other firms, is that we gave that, we gave that touch. We were completely non-hesitant, even if we had to spend half an hour, 1 hour more with the personnel of the companies. We walked them through, we made them understand, the broad contours of the law. So what I understood was that, yes, innovation was required, not only just, technical or technological innovation, but also, innovation in how you deliver your services. Now, if I talk about stricto sensu technological or technical innovation, we had already, even before the pandemic hit, we were already using certain, portals online, portals, for instance, like Google Meet or Microsoft Teams, or although Zoom was not popular, very popular back then, in order to deliver our services. At the same time, we also understood that innovation was also a challenge to us, because many a times whenever we met our clients, and as you know, a lot of IT related companies also, although they are offering very good products and services, but they are also sometimes not aware of the data privacy, data security challenges. So we had to make them aware also. Innovation would actually translate in terms of law. Now, let me give you an example. Now, someone came up with a very nice video conferencing app, or someone came up with a very nice tool that could be, put in a conference room, and they were delivering it across Europe. But while we were, trying to set up their data privacy program, if I may say so, we asked certain questions like, products have an innate capability of picking up data, and will you have a remote access to them? Now, many a times those people said, yes, we have remote access and we can know whatever is happening thousands of kilometers away in a conference room. Now, that was a challenge from a data privacy point of view. And we told them that, if this is happening, then you have to make certain disclosures to the company while that company is going to, for instance, go ahead and put your products, for instance. So many a times, we saw that. So I showed you by example how innovation was in a way. I think there's some disturbance. I'm not sure. Sorry. Okay. I thought this was from my side. Yeah. So how innovation helped us, the fact that we brought about certain technological platforms before the pandemic hit. Second, how innovation was a challenge to us, because we had to see whether all these technological advancements in the products of our customers were actually meeting the data privacy rigors or not. And at the same time, we also understood that there was a clear confusion between what is data security and what is data privacy. Now, many a times we worked with multinationals who already had a very robust IT and cybersecurity team. And they told us that we are, very well equipped, and we don't believe that there's any problem insofar as data privacy is concerned. So what we usually tell them is that, okay, let's go ahead and have a gap assessment. Now, in those gap assessment sessions, what we understood was that, yes, the data security aspect very, very clear. Like, for instance, we have data loss prevention, this thing in place. You may have so many tech-related aspects correct. But at the same time, what about the rights that are connected with this very data that you are protecting? Although one must understand that data security does not pertain only to personal data, right? It can be non-personal data, it can be companies' confidential data, etc., etc. So data security took care of all of that. But if you talk about data privacy, that only pertains to personal data of living beings. Now, sometimes we also had to make, in our experience, make the clients understand that too, as to what is personal data. So personal data is some sort of data that helps identify a living person. So it may standalone help in identifying a living person, or it may in conjunction or in combination with some other factors also help. So for instance, if I say my name is Tripti Dhar and I live in Bombay, that will help narrow down the search, because how many Tripti Dhars will be living in Bombay. But at the same time, if you catch hold of my IP address, then 100% you will be able to identify me. So both the cases, what we're talking about is personal data. So, we then sort of made these companies aware, that data security is not the all pervasive aspect. There is a data privacy aspect, in which you must realize that certain personal data that you pick up from your customers or prospective customers, it has to be done with their consent. And the consent has to be informed. It should not be that, for instance, if a prospective customer goes onto your website and you ask them to, ask for their email ID or any other details, if it may be for the purposes of sending them some marketing information, etc. It is not that you don't have to tell them in details what is it that you intend to do with their personal data. A simple terms and conditions or privacy policy on the website does not absolve you of all that. Sorry, I think. May I proceed? I think there's some.
Yeah, sorry about that. Our guest is just joining without.
Yes. No problem. No, I actually thought perhaps from my side. Okay, great. Thank you.
No problem.
Yeah. So at the same time, you have to make your clients very well aware of the fact that any personal data that you take by any means, a clear communication has to be made as to what sort of personal data is it, what are the categories of personal data, what purpose is it that you will be using their personal data, is it going to be shared with the third party for any purpose, and for what is it going to be shared. So all these things, may seem very basic to the fraternity industry people, but it becomes very difficult to make the clients understand. And especially, we saw, talking about the Indian subcontinent or the Middle East, the culture of data privacy is not so much. Yes, data security, India is where I am, data security, but whenever you talk about data privacy, it may be taken as, that we are trying to, or the legislation is trying to disable the business. So it also took a lot of time to make the companies, make our prospective clients understand that data privacy legislations are, at the end of the day, not business disablers, they are business enablers. They will give you a competitive edge, in fact, and help gain the trust of these customers in the first place. And we gave them examples of Facebook, Google, Apple, and how these big companies have been caught in big legislations across the world because of the very fact that they have not taken care of the personal data of these persons. So, again, my startup experience has been full of, ups and downs, but also a mix of the fact that I had to create awareness as well. I am sure all these cybersecurity experts may also understand that, how the fact that these hackers are one step ahead of us, right, all the time. And if someone promises you that, that they will implement a solution after which no hacking would happen, that may not be the right picture to portray. So again, similarly, we also had to tell our clients, prospective clients, that data privacy is something that will help you minimize the damage if at all any hacking takes place. Also, at the same time, that does not mean that you will leave your systems vulnerable and not have appropriate security measures in place. You have to have those security measures in place. In fact, the various data privacy legislations also talk about the same thing. They talk about a mix of having organizational measures, security measures, and data privacy principles. Now, the best thing about data privacy legislations, if I may say so, is that they are uniform across the world. So no matter what legislation you pick up, no matter what law you pick up, you will always find that the principles remain the same. For instance, if you need to have consent of the client, you need to have absolute clear consent. You will never find a legislation or a law saying that you don't need to get the consent of the customer. Or if they say that there are certain rights that a customer has over his or her own data, ownership rights, that will remain the same. So that is a very good aspect of the of it being global. And that is how we were able to get clients across nations, in the way that that everyone knew that the principles are the same. It is now more about application of law. And even for that application of law, again, as I said, we already had been to so many jurisdictions. I had been on my own various times, many a times, and we tried to understand what is the requirement of that country, what has been, what have the authorities done in the background. Now, for instance, if we talk about the California Consumer Protection Act, the Attorney General is the authority that is taking care of.
Engineering from GSFC University, Vadodara.
I think one of the speakers has.
Of robotic process automation.
It will.
How it may.
Sorry.
No problem.
Please, speakers or guests, please turn off your mic.
Yeah, so at the same time, so when we had our first experience in California, we tried to understand the fact that in California all these data privacy related enforcements are done by the Attorney General, whereas in the European Union it is typically an authority and not the Attorney General who does that. So there are some differences that you will only be able to understand in law if you are aware of those jurisdictions. But at the same time, just from my own perspective, I will say that GDPR is the golden standard. I mean, today I'm sure many people from many multinational companies are attending this show. Also, people who have their own businesses and who have expanded across nations, who have expanded their own businesses, understand the importance of complying with data privacy legislations. So what we suggest to our clients is that data privacy is a global subject. Ideally, if you have various branches across the world, what you should do is to have a global data privacy program in place. And the bedrock of that global data privacy program will be compliance with GDPR, because GDPR is supposed to be the golden standard, and it is the most rigorous of all the legislations, if I may say so. And in addition to that, if you have a branch in California, then you must also put in place certain measures and certain compliances that pertain to California, or that pertain to any other state, for instance, or pertain to Canada, pertain to Australia. Now, having a global data privacy program also helps keeping all the multiple branches of a company on the same page. Similarly, what mostly happens is that there is some person by the name of data protection officer. It is an authority based or authority made officer that is required to be kept in your company if GDPR or certain other legislations are applicable to you. For instance, when the Indian law comes, there is going to be a DPO. European Union law already wants a data protection officer to be appointed by companies. I think the CCPA does not talk about the DPO, but you will definitely need a chief privacy officer, etc., for complying with either California law or any other law that comes up now. As I mentioned before, Nevada, Colorado have already come up. Boston, Virginia, and New York are also coming up. The laws are coming up. So what happens is, once you implement the data privacy program, you also need to have a person or an organization who is maintaining these personal data records for you. And that also becomes important because your compliance has to be ongoing. Mostly I like to equate data protection compliances with that of taxation compliance. Now, some people may not like this comparison, but because since I background myself, I like to equate these two. So the way you treat your tax compliances, your tax registrations, in the same way you have to deal with your data privacy and protection compliances as well. And that say that these things have to be maintained and monitored month on month. A, and B, also these are as critical as your taxation, because taxation may involve finances, whereas in data privacy and protection, it involves your customers, your vendors, your employees, etc., all of them. So another myth that a lot of people harbor in their minds is that data privacy and protection is all about IT companies. It's not. What I tell my clients is, as long as you have employees, leave, perhaps you don't have any clients, or vendors. As long as you have employees, you will have to have data privacy programs in place, because at the end of the day, if you have employees, and to those employees you have to pay your salaries, you have to give them health benefits, pensions, etc., insurance, you end up collecting a lot of personal data, right? So you have to adhere with these personal data norms for our employees as well. Same is for vendors. Many a times we do vendor due diligences also, because in many cases we see that vendors become processors, and to tomorrow say that I did not process my customers' data but my vendor did, and I can wash my hands off this responsibility, does not fly with the authorities, because what they say is that this vendor came into place only because of you, because of your contractual relationship with the client, and you cannot simply wash off your hands from this relationship. And if the vendor fails on his part, and if there's any data privacy offense that happens on vendor's part, if there's any leak, any breach, or any hack, and there is harm done to the client, the responsibility also lies on the data controller or the person who is engaging the vendor as well. So in short, what I want to say is that data privacy is such an all-pervading subject, which like any other upcoming field, is also very, very important. A, B, it does not only cover IT companies, it covers companies across the board. It covers any company that has employees, vendors, clients, or has a website, has an app, all of them. So one has to be very, very careful. And my startup experience was such that when I joined my organization, I found that because of lack of, the fact that India did not have a data protection legislation, there was a lot of work that I had to do within my organization as well. And we still don't have a law. So people may say, jurisdictions that do not have a law, they may say that, Arey, we don't have a law. Why do we at all need to comply? The thing is, if you are taking your business global, if you have a global business, you will be asked by your clients or by your contractors as to, are your systems aligned with the GDPR? Are your systems aligned with the CCPA? Or are your systems ISO 27001 certified, for instance? Then what do you do at that point in time? And in the same breath, if you have data privacy programs in place, if your systems are aligned with ISO 27001, it becomes all the more important. And as I mentioned, it becomes, a competitive edge then in that case, and you gain the other party's confidence. So in short, this has been my experience, and I mentioned how innovation was also a boon for us, and how we faced, how we came out to innovate in our small manner. At the same time, when we saw that our clients were innovating, what sort of challenges it posed to our data privacy program implementation as well, and aspects of overlapping data security, data privacy. Data privacy has data security as one of the aspects. We cannot say that data security is not an aspect. If you read the GDPR, if you read the CCP or any leading legislation, you will find that data privacy regime has in the elements of data security as well. And it is very important to maintain the safety and security of personal data, because at the end of the day, we live in such a world where Facebook is the biggest content company, if I may say so, but it does not own any of its content. As there are no writers, etc. on Facebook. It is all user-generated content. Same Airbnb, company that helps in real estate bookings, etc., but it does not have any real estate inventory of its own. Uber is an aggregator, the largest transportation company, if I may call it, but it does not have any transport. So what is it that is making these companies anything without having relative inventory as well? So all that they are playing on is the personal data of people. Hence, it is very important to take care of the personal data if you have to go ahead. Otherwise, you will also face problems in your business, since the fact that authorities and organizations are becoming very aware now. So that was it from my side. I think I am just in time. I hope that that my experience was some sort of interest to you all. And if there's anything, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. Again, thank you, Dhaval. Thank you, Nehal.
Yeah, sure. Tripti, it was really, enriching conversation. The important aspects of the compliance that you just laid out, right? Why somebody should be talking about compliance, why somebody should have a, dedicated advisory for compliance purposes. I think, is Tripti is the streaming working?
Yes, it's working, yes.
Okay. Yeah, your screen
No, I think perhaps maybe for a bit. So I was just reading some questions that I was just seeing. So I think it's mainly everyone has just given comments like privacy and security go hand in hand. Definitely privacy and security go hand in hand. Many a times people just want to say that data security is the only aspect and there is no privacy aspect. So we have to tell people that they are married to each other, data privacy and security. And one of the persons is saying, I think it depends on whether encrypted data and it remain encrypted or not. Definitely, encryption is a very important aspect, but encryption is also expensive. So a lot of companies don't go for encryption. A lot of vendors don't know that encryption can happen. So as a part of our consultancy, we also, consult them to encrypt the important information if at all they need it. Otherwise, if they don't, then we ask them to, de-identify data or something very simple as restrict the access of data to everyone. So there are various aspects in which you can consult.
Yes, you're right.
Yeah.
And
I guess everything else.
It's about how customer know when company data privacy law are different from region to region, rules and regulation. Because in some region they say
so
different rules.
See, what happen is as a consumer, please.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. Okay, Nihal. Okay, sorry. I'll just answer. How do consumer know about companies' data privacy when every region have different rules and regulations? No, see. So again, the differences in rules and regulations is only pertaining to certain compliance aspects. So if I may give you an example, is that say for instance, a company is in California, a company is in Netherlands, and a company is in India. What will be different?
Yeah, I think let's give few seconds to Tripti. I
Yeah.
think the connection
Sure.
has problem. Yeah.
So, do you like to share something about the data privacy? Okay, is there?
Yeah,
Yes.
I'm back.
Yes.
Yes, sorry. I think some technical. Yeah. So at all, what will happen is that, for instance, the compliances will differ. So for instance, as I mentioned, in how much time do you have to inform the authorities? Now under the GDPR it may be say 72 hours. Under the California Consumer Protection Act it may say that within a reasonable time you have to inform the authority. In India the law may say within 48 hours of you knowing you have to inform. So these are the only differences you will say. Or perhaps if there is an offense, say for instance a hacking has happened, okay, and in hacking say the personal data of children that are below the age of 18 years has leaked. Now in GDPR the fine for it may be say $1 million for 1 million euros for instance. Under the CCPA it may say that okay 1000 USD per offense or per child's data that has leaked, because this is the way in which US fines or California fines. In India, it may be 2 crore rupees. So that is the only difference that there will be. But the point is that the spirit of the law will remain the same. If
Yeah.
if for instance hacking off or breach of data of a child of under the 18 years of age or under the 16 years of age is an offense in one jurisdiction, it will be an offense in other jurisdictions also. Now the difference again may be say in the age of child. In India, child is anyone under the age of 18. In European Union, the legislation says under the age of 16, but the countries can put their own age. So some countries like Germany may say that the age of a child is less than 13 years of age. So these are the differences that can happen. Now if you ask me how will customers know, the customers don't know.
Yeah.
The customers are not required to know. That is why the privacy policy that a company has on its website, it is very important. In that privacy policy to make the so is on this company and we tell them that okay our base is in California, is in Europe, you is Singapore, either have one privacy have separately programmed to go separate in.
Yeah, I think Tripti is trying to say that the spirit of the data privacy laws is same all around the globe. It just there's a difference in different timeline that's given when the data breach happens, what you have to do, and how much time you have to report it, including the different fines there will be applicable if your company's data is breached. But I think overall, it was very wonderful presentation from Tripti, where he did mention about first of all why you should approach a data privacy consultant and data privacy advisory service, where your business may not be completely touching all the different regions, but the way she laid out different options of different geographical areas and different jurisdiction, how they apply, because sometimes see we are living in a global world where data of one country's customers or users may be processed elsewhere, and so I think that's where this complication arise, where customer the the data processing is done in other place, and the operations and oversight is at third place. So Tripti, I was just trying to summarize what you presented.
Yes. Please.
The spirit of all the laws are same. It only there's a difference in how the laws are giving a different timeline when breach happens and different fines associated.
Yes.
But the main goal of this law is not to focus on the breach timeline or the fines. But main goal is to have consented user data to be used for the purpose of the business. And it's more about securing the data of the customer that he has entrusted you for his genuine business purpose. So that's the first goal. So as long as the business takes enough care of scrubbing the data when it flows from one department to another, or at least de-identify the data that to bring the value of synthesis and data science and analytics, all this that happens, that flows at top level, then there should not an issue for the organization to use data. But still, data mining just bring up surprises many times. That's why guided data advisory services like what you do, is very much important for a global organization.
Yes. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Sorry.
Yeah, please. No, please.
I know you are running out of time.
No, please.
I have one question. I see some organization, they take your data from a survey, or if you are attend some event, they take your data, right? And after that, they are using and they are selling that data. They said like, okay, we have take a permission, or we have a we are not doing any illegal thing. We have right to sell this data, because I know some organization use this, buy that data for marketing or some other reason. So is there any law where we can say that this is wrong, you cannot? Because sometimes you know that your data is in their data bank, but sometimes you don't know your data is in their data bank or not.
Yeah.
So in that case, what customer can do?
Yeah, so basically, I'll tell you something. If you specifically look at the California Consumer Protection Act, they have a requirement, a necessity that in any of the company's websites that you have, whenever you put up a website, if you're doing your business in California, you have to, in a conspicuous place, put in a banner saying, please do not sell my data. If someone wants that their data should not be sold, they should go and click on it. This is something that in a very affirmative manner, the CCPA wants everyone in California to do. A. B. Now you're talking about when you go to certain places and surveys are taken, perhaps on the spot, etc., etc. At that point in time, also see, the first thing to understand is that these surveys and these lotteries are a scam. No one wins anything, but they take all your information. So at that point in time, ideally, they should somewhere have this sort of a banner or this sort of a placard saying what are the terms and conditions, because obviously they will not go on to tell the terms and conditions to everyone. But in those terms and conditions, what I'm trying to say is that any personal data that is collected, even by consent, say for instance, they took your consent and you filled in some form. At the same time, in that form, they have to very clearly tell you as to what is the purpose for which they will use this personal data. Now, if they say that they are using this personal data only for the purpose of a lottery or for the purposes of a research, then that personal data should be used only for that purpose. If you find your data being used for any other manner, you can report the same to the authorities. This has been done in European Union. I know for a fact, even in California Consumer Protection under the CCPA, this is being done. So misuse of data or using your personal data for any other purpose is an offense. So it is said that even if you have a data on someone and if you want to use it for some other purpose, say for instance, I am a company and and I have some products to offer and you like one of the goods. And now, obviously, if I have to deliver those goods to you, I have to ask you for your address. I may ask you for your physical address also and your email also for coordination purposes. Now, the purpose for which I'm collecting this personal data is for delivering. Now, tomorrow, if I have to send you marketing materials, I ideally have to take fresh consent from you. I cannot use your data for marketing under the old purpose. So that is the case. So, these things again all depend on the awareness. Now, the good thing about the good news about North America is that the torts regime is very active. Now, when I say torts regime is very active, is that persons can sue companies in court, saying that these my personal rights were injured or harmed, and you see a lot of lawsuits being filed. So tomorrow again, if you find that your personal data is being used in a wrong fashion and you are being hassled or bothered, there are elaborate ways under which the Attorney General has invited people to complain or report on such mechanisms. So I really encourage everyone to know their rights and to
Actually,
exercise
I've
their
been
rights.
through this thing because like last year we just meet one of Canadian company,
Yes.
and they said like we have around millions of USA, India, and UK, not UK, Canada region data. If you want, you can have with certain amount, or you have to pay this much amount on
Yeah.
a year.
So
And when we see that data, we are so surprised. Like they have their all information. Not only that, what they have like incoming every company details. Like this company currently interested to buy this thing. This company is interested to do this project. So that kind of company inside details,
think
and
this
that data is not a good thing they are selling without their company ask.
yeah, they're putting the people's personal cell numbers as well, not only the work numbers, personal cell numbers they expose. So they are like disguising under the blanket consent, and they are misusing that consent that they got through some other pretext, just like survey you mentioned, right? So some or other pretext they get the user's consent in some way, and they are using the blanket consent to use the data in a number of different ways.
Absolutely, absolutely. And in fact, the law also tells her, I will just give you an example. I will project my screen and I will just give you an example of how it is. And I just randomly, Googled for a website, any California related website. And I don't know if you can see, can you see, is it being projected?
Yes,
Dine
yes.
Admic. Yeah. So if you see, this is a website that does business in California. Now, I don't even know what they do, AI powered integrated ad marketplace. Okay. Now, this is as as advanced as it can get. Now, they are telling you what they do for their audiences. They scale up, see the impact of your campaign, right? They perhaps get a lot of views, etc. But at the end of this website, you will see something. Let me come to it. Yeah, legal notice, corporate privacy policy, CCPA corporate privacy policy, California Consumer Protection Act corporate privacy policy, cookie policy, product privacy policy, CCPA product privacy policy, and do not sell my personal information. Now, as I mentioned, do not sell my personal information is a mandatory feature of the California Consumer Protection Act. Any company that is seeking to do business in California has to have this thing in a very conspicuous place. Like these people have put it towards the end of their page. Some people put it at the front of their page. Now, whenever you are dealing with any company, while in California, if you're in California, you are subjects of California law, obviously. You should technically go and, fill this in. Do not sell my personal information, name, email, and if there's any message that you want to give, and submit it. This action of yours will make sure that personal information cannot be sold. Now, if you read all of this, this is what the website says. As defined in our CCPA corporate privacy policy, Dine Admic has not sold your personal information in the last 12 months with regard to personal information collected from this website. As defined in our product policy, your personal information may have been sold to personal information collected from third parties. They are not very sure about that, but they are making this disclosure. Third, we understand that you may want to ensure your personal information is not sold in the future, that is. Therefore, if you would like to proceed with your do not sell personal information request, we ask that you kindly check on this link. Now, this is a new feature because CCPA has just come into place a couple of years ago. And in fact, CCPA is going to change into CPRA in 2023, if I'm not wrong. California Consumer Protection Rights Act. It is something of that sort, CPRA. So the thing is that every website has to do this. Let me also share. There's another website. Well, I was just talking with you guys.
Yeah, and also we have some more
I think
questions
some questions from
in our chat.
Silpi
Yeah.
Gupta has say that
Okay.
many consumers don't even read the terms and conditions and just simply click on agree. So what if a company has mentioned that they have rights to share or market the data to anyone else?
Exactly. So I'll tell you what happens. The authorities all over the world have cautioned that the terms and conditions should be in such a manner that can be understood by the consumers. They should not be like a legal document. Now, what is happening is that everyone is going to intimidate the customers. And even as, someone who consults the businesses as well, we tell them that please don't go for intimidating language, legal contracts running into 12 pages and put it up as a privacy notice or terms and conditions. The idea is that you should have a layered privacy notice. Now, what do I mean by layered privacy notice? Now, on your website, right, the place where you are collecting the personal information of someone, if you are collecting the personal information of your prospective consumer, at that point in time, just below that tab, you must, in a line or couple of lines, mention that we will be collecting your personal data for, say, marketing purposes, and we will send it across to third parties, for instance, something of that sort. And only when a person affirmatively puts a tick, should you go ahead and use this personal data for the reasons of for using this for these reasons. Now, again, though I as in this is my analysis. Now, because there is a single omnibus law in European Union, the effectiveness of that law, that is GDPR, is seen far much more in the European Union across all countries, be it Netherlands, Germany, France, Sweden, etc., rather than, say, in the North America, because North America, has sector-specific legislations. Secondly, they have state-based legislations as well. So that is why, a lot of states are coming up, because they have understood that persons do not know. And again, the fact that a common man will not go in these 12 pages of terms and conditions is being held against his or her. But let me tell you one thing. Even if the terms and conditions and privacy policy is in some legal jargon, and even if it is very long, you can still take the company to court by saying that, the terms were so complex that I did not know. No effort was made to make me understand, right? So all these things, to be very honest, are very actively happening in the European Union, as opposed to, say, the North America, but it is still picking pace, if I may say so. So, yeah.
Other question for Kalpana, like if when you are talking about California region law. So if company from other region have do they have same law, or what they do? Like if a company belongs to certain other than a California region, what they do?
Yeah, so see, I'll tell you something. Why I insist on California is because California law is one of the newest laws, and it has already been implemented since a year and a half or so. Now, if I talk about other states of America, say Boston, Nevada, Colorado, they are coming up. New York is coming up. Some other states like Miami, etc., also have law in place. Again, as I ensure you, the spirit of the law will remain the same. You can take the company who is misleading you or misusing your personal data to the appropriate authority. So as I mentioned, now you may say that, okay, I am not in California, but does this law not apply to me? Yes, the California law may not apply to you, but your state will still have a specific law in place. If you do not have a general state law in place, you will have some sector specific law. Now, for instance, as I mentioned, under the HIPAA, all the healthcare providers of America are covered. So if you find your personal data pertaining to health being jeopardized, you can approach the authorities under the HIPAA. Now, if it is pertaining to some finance or other sort of personal data, you can go under GLBA. There are certain specific laws pertaining to credit also, your credit transactions, etc. So what I'm trying to say is that awareness is the key. As consumers, we don't have awareness, and no one is trying to make us understand because they feel it will be a negative for the companies if they try and make us understand. But the law is going to catch up sooner or later. Everyone will know it sooner or later. And as I mentioned, wherever we have been able to raise awareness by means of webinars, by means of free camps, we have done that. Because at the end of the day, at the end of the day, I am also a business person. It's not that I am wearing only a hat of a consumer. Tomorrow I also have to do business, but at the same time I understand that I cannot jeopardize the rights of my customers, consumers. It cannot be a trade-off that I can do business only if I make a fool out of my customers. No, I have to make everyone aware. I have to be on the right side of the law, and by being on the right side of the law, my customers will see a difference in what sort of services I give them. So that is very important, right? So at the end of the day, again, what I will tell you is from my experience is that keep your ears and eyes open. Try and engage in a lot of debates. Like for instance, this symposium is a perfect example where you will get information of technical stuff, of perhaps some sort of legal or compliance related stuff as well. And if you keep on following the Rainbow Secure Symposium, keep in touch with Nehal, Dhaval, everyone else, perhaps me also, you'll be able to know it so much more. So yeah, this is my 2 bits.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Deepti.
We had one last follow-up question from Silpi that as per her understanding, GDPR law is applicable irrespective of the country of business as long as it is related to the European customer state.
Yeah.
I think this is correct. Yes, that's the thing.
So I'll tell you, the GDPR is a extraterritorial law. Now, what is meant by extraterritorial? It means that if a company is not situated in the European Union, it may be situated in India or Middle East or America, but that company, despite not having a presence in European Union, is either offering goods and services to the European Union residents or is monitoring their behavior. Even if that company does not conduct a single rupee, single euro transaction, still that company is going to attract GDPR because you are actually playing with the data of the European Union residents. So yes, it is extraterritorial in nature. So as long as you are going to, now you may ask me a question, how is it determined whether I am providing goods and services to the European Union residents or I am monitoring their behavior? Simple. If you have a website that opens in your country, in Sweden or in Netherlands, it means that you are offering them goods and services. Your business is open for them. Another example is many a times we go and see websites wherein if you want to check the prices of goods and services, they have those conversions. You can see in dollars, you can see in pounds, you can see in euros. So if you can see euros, it means that they are willing to exchange goods and services. I mean, they are willing to sell to you goods and services, and they are monitoring your behavior. They are picking up your IP address, etc. So this means that yes, you are providing services to European Union. Now, there have been other examples also wherein companies have had to either specifically shut their businesses down in European Union, or they have to block their websites. Now, I do not know how many of you know what is Make My Trip. Make My Trip is a website. It is an aggregator in India. And it is for European and it is for booking of these flights, international flights, domestic flights, and also hotels, etc. Now, if you open, I mean, at least till a couple of months back, if you open Make My Trip while sitting in European Union, it will give you a disclaimer saying that we have not aligned with GDPR, so sorry, we cannot offer our services to you. This has happened, and Make My Trip is a very big brand and very big company in India. Second of all, there were certain gaming companies, Korean gaming companies, that had to close shop in European Union before GDPR was enforced. So GDPR gave 2 years for enforcement. It came in May 2016, and it said that I give you 2 years time. By 25th May 2018, you have to align or else you have to shut shop. There were some gaming companies that shut shop because they were not able to bear the cost. They were small companies, so they were not able to bear cost. So you have to take that decision. You have to. So that if you, so again, because this is an extraterritorial law, they can pull you up. So either you shut shop or you don't give access to your business or to your website to European Union, or you get pulled up. Now, Facebook, what has happened to Facebook? The case against Facebook that is now going on is from Ireland, the European Union. Max Schrems has, put a series of complaints against Facebook that is in Ireland, and this is how extraterritoriality functions. That a American company is being pulled up in the European Union in Ireland. So this is the extraterritorial aspect that I think Shilpi spoke of. Yes. Excuse me.
Yeah, Shilpi wants to know if CCPA
I
law
hope
is...
I have not eaten into everyone else's time.
Yeah, I think Shilpi, one last question she had is that is the CCPA law is also extraterritorial, just like GDPR?
Yes. Again, so any company who does business in California, and when I say business in California means it provides its services to Californian residents. Yes, it will. The CCPA will be applicable. However, there are certain other thresholds also, like monetary thresholds. Say, for instance, I don't remember exactly, but I think it says that if your overall business is, say, less than $25,000, then you are not, then you don't attract CCPA, for instance. So such monetary thresholds may be there. Also, if you are using personal data for household purposes and not for commercial purposes, then CCPA is not applicable. So such exceptions are there, but otherwise, yes, it also works in the similar manner like GDPR does.
Thank you very much, Tripti, for this exciting conversation and Q&A as well.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I like to get feedback from audience. If you like Tripti, this session, please in the bottom of the show your reaction, so she will know.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being so patient with me, and thank you for asking amazing questions. And first of all, thank you to Nehal, Dhaval, Shashi, Tirthesh for giving me this opportunity. And whenever there's any doubt, any academic discussion you want to do, I'm always up there. I think I've given my email ID as well, so you can look me up. I'm always there for any discussion.
Sure.
Thank you very much again.
Thank you, everyone. Okay, all right. Bye-bye.
Bye.